Lessons learned in my shrimp keeping adventures for 2022. "2022 has been a great year in my shrimp keeping adventures, but man, did I make a few fatal mistakes with my shrimp. I'm gonna list a few things that I've messed up on, and hopefully you'll be able to avoid these mistakes. Welcome everyone, it's Ray from RW Aquarium Pages, capturing my journey in planted aquariums, shrimp tanks, and everything in between. I thought about this topic deeply and wanted to share my 2022 shrimp keeping thoughts with everyone. Let's start things off with the drop and plop method. I tried using the drop and plop method for my new shrimp, which is to take newly acquired shrimp out of their bags and plopping them into their new tanks without acclimatization. The reason for this is because some shrimp travel for a few days. I wanted to get them out of the toxic water as soon as possible. I did a few experiments and now I've changed back to a drip acclimatization method for shrimp. I've also increased the time from 2 hours to 6 to 8 hours. It seems like there's a lot less stress to shrimp using this method. About 20 years ago, I met a local killifish breeder that drips 1 drop per second for 24 hours. Something worth considering. Green dust algae walls. I have a few tanks with green walls, but couldn't figure out the cause. I really like green walls in my shrimp tanks, as I've seen lots of shrimp climbing on the walls, scavenging, and picking at the green algae and biofilm. One simple trick that helped was using fluorescent or CFL lights. For some reason, they grow green dust algae on the walls super easily. The green walls help shrimp for a constant food source and food for my baby shrimp. The tanks that I have with green dust algae walls did way better. For my new shrimp rack, I'm going to mature each tank by using this method. Water changes. This summer, I got lazy and didn't do water changes for 3 months on my shrimp tanks. Some tanks, the TDS rose by a little bit, about 20 parts per million, and in some other tanks, the TDS rose by about 60 parts per million or more. I did top up with RODI water, but it wasn't pretty. Some colonies withered and weren't breeding too well. Since the summer was over, I've switched back to 5% weekly, and the colonies of the shrimp are recovering, and there's lots of buried shrimp. I'd recommend keeping up with the water changes. Enjoy the process or set up an automatic water change system. But honestly, that takes the fun out of it if it's too automated. Overfeeding. Don't overfeed your caridina shrimp, or shrimp in general. Plain and simple, take out the onion food after 2 hours or the water will pollute and the shrimp won't be happy. It's really fun to watch shrimp eat. If your colony is large enough, you can potentially feed daily or 2 times per day. My current schedule on my colonies is once every 2 to 3 days. This will increase when the colony is larger. Adjust and play with the amount and the frequency of food. But also remember to take out the uneaten food. Temperature. I typically don't keep heaters in my caridina shrimp tanks, except for my Siloaceae shrimps. Try to keep caridina shrimps in the temperature of between 19 degrees Celsius to 23 degrees Celsius, which is about 66 to 73 degrees Fahrenheit. During the winter, I did let a few tanks drop to 16 degrees Celsius, which is about 61 degrees Fahrenheit, and the shrimp were very slow and not very active, and they didn't breed much. I plopped in a heater to bring up the temperature slowly, and the shrimp were much more active afterwards. On the other end of the spectrum, I've been told that over 24 degrees Celsius or 76 degrees Fahrenheit, the chances of bacterial infection increases. I haven't experienced this myself, but it's a good thing to keep an eye on. This brings up an important topic: temperature controller. If you do use a heater, use a temperature controller. It will help you safeguard in case your heater gets stuck on and cook your fish or shrimp. It'll warn you if your tank is too hot or too cold, and if it's got Wi-Fi, it can notify you on the phone. It also acts as a second reading on your tank's temperature. This has happened to me where it's overheated my tank. This is quite a cheap insurance for a tank if you ask me. Backup colonies. What a great excuse to have more tanks. I'd recommend for your rare and expensive shrimp to have a backup colony. If you don't have space or want 2 or 3 tanks of the same shrimp, spread the love around to your friends and family. In case something happens to your colony, you can grab back some of them to recover. This happened to me this summer. 2 of my colonies didn't do too well during my summer break, and I had to get a few more off of my friends. Exhausted active soil. I let my active soil exhaust too much before I added more or swapped it out. It did affect the pH, which helps a lot for caridina shrimp. To combat this, I bought a pH meter that's always on the tank. Since my tanks are all set up the same way, once the pH drifts, I'll know when it's time to refresh the soil. Larger tanks. I have a crazy caridina setup that's in a 25 cm cube or 10-inch cube tank. That's about 4.3 gallons. It's pretty insane and a small surface area, yet this tank is doing extremely well, housing my blue bolts. The tanks on my shrimp rack are 10 gallons or 40 liters, which is a big improvement over my 12-inch or 30 centimeter cubes. For the next shrimp rack that I'm creating, I'll be using 20 gallons or 25 gallons, which is 80 to 100 liters aquariums. On my rack, I'll eventually swap them out to 60 cm or 90 cm tanks to replace the 45 cm tanks that I have on there. The larger surface area is key, more important than the volume of water, but the larger volume of water helps stabilize the water parameters. Auto top off. I'm going to install auto top offs for my new shrimp rack. This will refill the tank with RODI water and keep the water parameters consistent. Consistency is the key to shrimp keeping. This is commonly done in marine and reef tanks, and boy, those corals can get costly. Duckweed. Do not get any duckweed in your aquariums. They're more annoying than beneficial. Half of my tanks have duckweeds now, which is very annoying. I'm going to pay someone to come to my place to pick out all the duckweed shortly. Too much plants in breeding tanks. Keep it simple, the KISS method works best for keeping and breeding shrimp. If it's not a breeding setup and if it's a display, then create a nice aquascape with hiding spots. For breeding tanks, try to use the minimum method and use moss and boosts. Quality of shrimp. I've stressed this topic quite a few times on my channel. Try to find locally bred shrimp if at all possible. My red Santa shrimps were imported. I got 30 and after 3 months only 5 were left. I'm gonna try this shrimp again, but this time I found a semi-local breeder. I'll have to wait until the weather warms up and she'll ship some to me. How's your adventures in shrimp keeping this year? Comment below. Were there any challenges or successes? I'd like to hear from you. I love sharing my experiences, success and failures with everyone and capturing my journey in planted shrimp tanks. I wish everyone success in their aquarium adventures. Stay tuned for more informative videos. Thanks for watching and listening to my rambles. Have an awesome day.
Thanks for watching.